Welcome to Forest of Ash, Lesson 15, The Triple Goddess. If you have done any kind of delving into paganism, you will have come across the term the Triple Goddess. It follows the idea that the goddess has three facets: the maiden, the mother, and the crone. The Triple Goddess represents many things such as birth, life, death, and rebirth, and the phases of the moon, waxing, full, and waning. Whilst it may well be a modern idea, I believe it still gives a wonderful way of working with the goddess and her phases to help us evolve and understand our own journey through life. This journey can help you to embrace your own personal power. I've explored some of the myths, history, and meanings along with my own personal views, but also information that I've found in my research so that you can come to your own conclusion. But my primary focus is for you to find your own pathway and walk in a personal journey with the Triple Goddess in a way that suits you. I have hopefully provided you with the beginnings of a path for you to follow. Please do read the important thoughts first, and I ask you to keep an open mind. Important thoughts. In some of the writings and explorations, she appears in three ages: that of the young maiden, the mother, and then the elderly but wise crone. I want to put to you the suggestion that they weren't always set in family generations, but were in some cases sisters. Also, think about the idea of having a triple goddess, but all three being maidens, or all three being crones. And of course, there is the idea of having all three phases within one goddess. I also personally like to include a fourth phase in between mother and crone, that of the matriarch. I have laid out details in this lesson, splitting them into their respective categories because it made the most sense for formatting. But please don't let it limit how you see them or work with them. You don't have to look at them as three generations if you don't want to. And whilst I have specified particular attributes for each one, there are, of course, lots of crossovers between them. The crone is considered to be wise, but of course the mother and the matriarch bear that wisdom too. The maiden represents new beginnings, but we can all start afresh at any time of our lives. Also important to note is that you don't need to use the maiden, mother, crone names. You could create your own. Mother, in particular, leans towards the idea that every woman must become a mother at some point. Obviously, this is absolute tosh. Not every woman wants to be a mother. Not every woman can be a mother. This takes a bit of thinking outside the box and moving away from the idea of what the word mother conveys. If it helps to think of her as a creator, nurturer, teacher, or something else, do it. Maybe even look at it as being the mother to your own inner child. The idea is to separate the stages of life into bite-sized workable chunks. The names are perhaps a little irrelevant. It is the meaning of working with the goddess in different forms, and indeed delving into your own spirit and soul, that matters. We have become very hung up on labels and putting people and ideas into individual boxes. See your own reflection in each of the stories the goddess brings. Which parts relate to you and your own life story? And just in case you were wondering about gender, don't get too hung up on the feminine. Obviously, the goddess is portrayed as the divine feminine, and my personal belief is that she is a she. I see her as a strong feminine life force. But she also has masculine energies too. I work with her as a strong feminine energy and I balance her with the god for the masculine, but that is my personal choice. I am a proud woman and I feel honoured to be a mother. That isn't going to be the case for everyone. You must work with this in a way that you feel comfortable. What if you just looked at these phases as reflections of yourself and your life? You don't have to slot them into male, female, or any other kind of gender boxes. Working with this energy can help you with all aspects of your life. There are masculine and feminine energies in all of us. They are the opposing energies, but also balancing and complementary to each other. They are biological, both being needed to procreate, but they also exist in spiritual, mental, and emotional forms too, perhaps even more so than physical. I put out a question to a group of pagans. I posed the question with reference to the titles of Maiden, Mother, and Crone. The names give us very fixed ideas on feminine roles. So my question is, if you were to call the different phases by other names, what would you call them? It sparked an interesting discussion. Most people that replied had worked with the triple goddess idea and continued to do so. There were some really interesting name suggestions, with my thanks to those that contributed. There were one or two people who reacted strongly to the mother label, the inference being that it doesn't fit in the current times, as some women choose to be child-free. Whilst I absolutely understand the choice not to have children, and I believe it's a person's right to make that decision, I take my hat off to you, a top hat, obviously. However, as a mother myself, I'm very proud to bear that title, as are many, many other mothers and grandmothers. I don't want to dismiss the mother name because I believe it is that it is important to a huge amount of people. But if it doesn't work for you, then absolutely give that phase another name. But do remember, it is just a label. What really matters are the aspects that come with that phase. It isn't about bearing or raising children. It's about giving birth. It doesn't have to just relate to children. It can mean so many things. You can give birth to ideas, ventures, businesses, projects, designs, and creations of all kinds. There is so much more to the mother aspect of the goddess that can be explored. A couple of people also suggested that crone wasn't a relevant word these days either, the suggestion being it should be replaced with wise woman or grandmother. Again, I believe that it is the bad press the title crone has received over the years. Even the dictionary describes it as an ugly old woman. Although they do give a second meaning of it, an old woman with magic powers, which is better. Maybe we need to reclaim it. For me, the name crone means wise woman or elder. Here are some of the suggestions: the adventurer, the nurturer, the wise one; youth, maturity, old age; youth, experience, wisdom; carefree, energetic years; productive, fruitful years; wise, independent years; dark, shadow, light. The dark, where you are still learning; shadow, when you start to see both sides; and light, when things become clearer. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Sister, creator, elder; spring, summer, autumn, winter; youngling, mother, elder; warrior, protector, nurturer, elder; student, teacher, wise one, protector; innocent, learned, wise; youth, middle age, nearing the end; seed, seedling, sapling, mature; maiden, mother, queen, crone. And two of my favourites, although I assume they were said in jest, but you never know: knows nout, knows little, should know better; student, quaffling, I ain't dead. Terry Pratchett, for anybody that wants to know those ones. If you go along the route of the seasons, then you could also work with the elements or compass directions, the maiden being spring, air or east; the mother being summer, fire or south; the matriarch would become autumn, water or the west; and then the crone becomes winter, earth and the north. Don't be limited by labels. I think it is also important to note that not all goddesses are considered to be part of a threesome, although that has other meanings, and who knows what those Romans got up to. And to distinguish between the following terms: a triad, triadic, forming a group of three, a group, union or set of three interrelated people. These three are usually associated with each other or appear together. A triplicity, A group of three identical beings, the quality or state of being threefold character or condition. A triunity, triune, or trinity, one being with three individual personas, manifestations, or aspects, the fact or state of being three in one or one in three. A tripartite, a being with three body parts, where there is usually one, three heads perhaps, or three arms, or triple parts. In a lot of pagan pathways, and primarily in Wicca, the goddess is seen as feminine and represented by the moon, with the god as the masculine and represented by the sun. This design makes sense to me, so it is the basis upon which I work. You may have other ideas, don't let me stop you. Make it work for you. The goddess is for everyone. I believe it is important to note here, anyone can work with or identify with any or all of the phases of the goddess. You don't have to be a teenage girl to work with the maiden goddess. You don't have to be a retired lady of leisure to work with the crone. You don't have to be female or identify as female. You can be any age, any race, or any gender to work with any goddess in any phase. She does not judge. She does not discriminate. Perhaps each of us has all the phases of the goddess and all the gods within us already. The myths and stories of the triple goddess are there to teach us, support us, and guide us. On occasion, she may even give us a kick up the butt. Rest assured, she only does that when it is needed. The triple goddess represents phases of our own lives, but also different aspects of our psyche. Part of our journey is to experience and acknowledge each of these different facets of our personality, and even in some cases, to unite them. Look to the moon as an example. She goes through each phase in her cycle. She is a shapeshifter, taking on different guises as she moves through her monthly cycle. Her phases can also be equated to the triple goddess aspects. The triple goddess could also be equated to us as humans having a body, soul, and spirit. She can even be seen in the three worlds, the underworld, the middle world, and the upper world. Perhaps even time, as in the past, present, and future. I also like to link them to the seasons, although you need to include the matriarch for that to work, although I have seen the crone associated with both autumn and winter together, leaving the mother as summer and the maiden as spring. The Hermetic concept of the three principles sees salt, sulphur, and mercury, which could equate to the triple goddess. Salt is the dark, earthy part of the world, sulphur is the light and heaven, and mercury is the intermediate. The triple goddess, her history. Where did the idea of the triple goddess come from? In my research, I have found some interesting tidbits from various more modern works by respected Wiccans. Moonchild, written by Aleister Crowley, was published in 1929. This book includes reference to the triple goddess. He describes her as maiden, Artemis, Diana, Isis, lover, Persephone, and crone, Hecate. Hecate being the new moon and hell, Diana represents the full moon and the heavens, and Persephone was the half moon in between heaven and hell. Gerald Gardner does not mention the triple goddess in his Book of Shadows or in Witchcraft Today, 1954. However, he does mention the triple goddess very briefly in The Meaning of Witchcraft, published in 1959. Gardner goes on to write an essay entitled The Triad of the Goddess. Although it isn't dated, it is believed to have been written after a meeting with Robert Graves in 1961. In the essay, Gardner describes the triad as love, death, rebirth, and compares it to both the Christian Trinity and the Hindu god triad of Brahman, Vishnu, and Shiva. Raymond Buckland, in reference to the book, in his book Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft, 1986, but not in his previous books, Although his book covers many subjects, Robert Graves does describe the triple goddess in his book, The White Goddess, 1948. Although Graves is often given credit for the maiden mother crone idea, he also uses other descriptions of trios such as maiden, nymph, and hag, or mother, bride, and layer out. The pattern follows. The mother gives birth to the god of the year, the bride or nymph takes a god as consort, and his seeds are sown in her womb to create rebirth. The crone, or layer out, causes some mischief between the twin gods, one slaying the other. The death then creates a sacrifice to the goddess, thus beginning the cycle of life once again. The White Goddess book also includes information giving each of the goddesses a male counterpart. Robert Graves also works with the idea of a quintuple goddess, suggesting birth, initiation, consummation, repose, and death as the 5 stages. These he equates to mother, maiden, bride, crone, and slayer. In his book The Golden Fleece in 1944, he writes about the dominance of the Olympian gods over the triple goddess. He refers to the goddess as maiden, nymph, and mother, corresponding to the new moon, full moon, and old moon. Hercules, My Shipmate, or The Golden Fleece, 1944. Interestingly, in this book, he doesn't mention the crone phase of the goddess. In 1946, Graves published King Jesus. Here he describes a great triple moon goddess who represents birth, love, and death. He gives the description as Miriam, Jesus' mother, Mary of Cleopas, Jesus' potential wife, and Mary Magdalene as the form of the triple goddess. His book, The Greek Myths, 1955, also mentions the triple goddess. The Cambridge ritualist Jane Ellen Harrison depicted the goddess and maid Kore and her mother Demeter and combined them together as one being. She also brought in the comparison of the Christian Trinity, that of Father and Son, although she didn't use a darker aspect of the goddess. Sigmund Freud wrote about the triple goddess idea in his 1913 essay, The Theme of the Three Caskets, where he describes them as birth, love, and death, and equates them to the seasons, the fates, and triform of Artemis Hecate. Eric Newman, one of Carl Jung's followers, wrote about 4 aspects of the goddess, which he superimposed on a quartered circle, the shape of which will sound familiar to a lot of pagans today. They were the Good Mother, representing Demeter, Isis, Mary, the Virgin Muse, representing Mary and Sophia, the Terrible Mother, Old Witch, representing Kali and Hecate, and the Young Witch, representing Astarte, Lilith, and Circe. They reflected birth, inspiration, vision, death, and drunkenness and madness. Starhawk uses the idea of maiden mother crone as a triple goddess idea in her book Spiral Dance, published in 1979. She also suggests a pentad, a 5-fold star, which covers birth, initiation, ripening, reflection, and death. The maiden mother crone concept appears in Margot Adler's book Drawing Down the Moon, also published in 1979. Going back further, take a look at the writings of Porphyry, a Neoplatonist philosopher in 2034 AD to 305 AD, and Maurus Severus Horatius, a grammarian from the 4th century CE, and you will find suggestions of ancient Greco-Roman triple goddesses. Porphyry believed that Hecate had 3 aspects, those of the new waxing and full moon phases. He associated her with Demeter and Persephone and also Artemis. He compares the 3 phases to the 3 fates. Severus wrote that some believed the triple Hecate to be a moon goddess, with Luna above the earth, Diana upon it, and Persephone below it. He also talks about the perfect number 3 and assigns it to God, and that the power of the gods is shown in 3-fold symbols. Hecate, whose power is said to be threefold, from which come the three faces of the Virgin Diana. In an extract written by Severus in Rome in the year around 400 CE, the three aspects of the Virgin Diana is a repetition indicating the moon, Diana, and Proserpina. When she is above the earth, she is the moon. On earth, she is Diana, and under the earth, Proserpina. Some argue that she is threefold because the moon has three forms, as on the first night, on the following nights, and on the 15th. Note the Latin text here has three drawings of the moon, crescent, half, and full. Some call the same goddess Lucina, Diana, and Hecate because they assign it to one goddess, the three powers of birth, growth, and death. Some that say that Lucina is the goddess of birth, Diana of growth, and Hecate of death. On account of this threefold power, they have imagined her as threefold and threeform, and for that reason they built temples at the meeting of three roads. Ancient Greece, in particular, has quite a number of triple goddesses in different forms. If we look at the three Erinyes or Furies, Aeschylus calls them the daughters of the night, and Socrates refers to them as the daughters of darkness and the earth. They are all crones that reside in the underworld. Flip forward in history, and they were often given separate names. Fast forward even more, and they were transformed into the Eumenids. All very ancient, but definitely a form of the triple goddess. The pre-Hellenic people of Attica had three earth goddesses that formed a triplet. Way back in history, the Arabic people worshipped a trinity of desert goddesses, each a different facet of the one goddess. Perhaps even the Valkyries are in some form are in some part a form of the triple goddess, with Hlok, Gol, and Skjalg forming a triad. And of course, sticking with Norse mythology, we have the three Norns, or the triple goddesses of fate, Urd, Valandi, and Skuld. Head over to Ireland and we see three goddess protectors, Eru, Banda, and Fotla. Triple goddesses, perhaps? Ancient Britain has a set of three mother goddesses. Although little is known about them, they appear to be a fertility triplet. The Egyptian pantheon, for instance, is full of triads, groups of three deities making up a family unit. However, these seem to be more along the lines of father, mother, and child. There are indeed many examples going back through time of goddesses that could be called triple in one form or another. Whether they are different deities or facets of the same one, each could lay claim to the triple goddess title. I explore some of them in more detail further in this book. All of this was taken from Rachel's Triple Goddess book. And a fourth. I always feel the need to put a fourth aspect in between the mother and the crone for various reasons, but mainly because there seems to be such a big gap between them that needs something else. I call her the matriarch, but I've also seen her referred to as the queen. I have included her in this lesson so that you can explore and decide whether it fits you or not. And the rest of the band. The great bard himself, Shakespeare, wrote about the 7 ages of man as a poem within his play As You Like It. It is an interesting speech made by the character Jacques in the presence of the Duke. You may be familiar with at least the first 2 lines. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. It suggests that one man plays a lot of different parts, his life being split into 7 acts, each one representative of his ages. It begins, obviously, with the infant, a baby in arms, reliant on someone else to look after them, the role of a baby being basically to eat, sleep, poop, and throw up milk. Then a schoolboy, going unwillingly to school, but being introduced to discipline, rules, and routines. Obviously, Shakespeare's experience of school would have been quite different to modern day schooling, but the principle remains the same. Onward to the teenager, the beginnings of love, in reality more likely to be lust, the individuality and personal traits showing themselves quite strongly now, along with all the other issues that fill a teenager's head. Next to the youth, Shakespeare refers to the soldier for this phase. This would have included courage, energy, and perhaps even rebellion, reacting to the world around them. Middle age then strikes, when people settle down, perhaps to marriage and families, but not always. Other priorities now take control of life. Into old age, the life expectancy has changed a lot. In medieval times, it would not have been much more than 40, if that, but it has extended. This stage might include retirement now, downsizing, taking up new hobbies, and doing things that you might have always wanted to do. Shakespeare then adds the last scene of all and talks about extreme old age, the point in life when our body and often our mind fails us, when we revert to a second childhood. I think it is quite a fascinating way of looking at life and the phases that we all go through. No titles, no gender specific labels, but phases of life that are all inclusive. Working with the Triple Goddess. Within this section, I have broken down the goddess into 4 phases. You can choose to work with 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of them. It doesn't matter which or what order, the choice must be yours. In all honesty, the choice is probably hers because the goddess speaks loudly and will continue to hassle you until you listen. I have used feminine pronouns because I work with the goddess as a strong feminine energy. But as a reminder, she does have masculine energies too. You can work with the goddess in whatever way suits you. Feminine energy can be anywhere between gentle new beginnings, nurturing, supportive, forgiving, and loving, right through to dark inner work, creation, and aspects of death and rebirth. Every single one of us, no matter what gender, sex, race, colour, or creed, carries feminine energy within. How you choose to work with that is up to you. You may feel the call of the goddess. You might feel that you are in desperate need of her guidance. You may be mildly interested, or you may believe that you are spiritually and mentally fully rounded and need only a little guidance or assistance. Personally, I believe we all go through phases in life, those of spiritual and mental growth along with physical changes. Each stage produces its own issues, obstacles, and hopefully also revelations. You may sail through life with little to hinder your way. Most of us, though, deal with problems on a regular basis. Working with the goddess energy can in some way help. It might be on a spiritual level, or she could play a huge supporting role. I wholeheartedly believe that we are always learning. No one person can ever know everything. There are always new pathways to take and new adventures or interests to take on board. Even if you have been on a spiritual pathway for many years, sometimes it is beneficial to go back to basics. Not for a complete reset, but just as a refresher. If you are starting your spiritual journey from scratch, oh my, what a wonderful adventure you have in front of you. There are no benchmarks, no judgments about how far you have come or how much you have learnt. Each journey is very personal and individual. There are also no direct routes or shortcuts to experience. Each person will take a different journey, and each journey will usually be incredibly wiggly. It will spiral, bend, twist, and turn in all kinds of directions. Go with the flow. Working with the goddess can provide you with all sorts of healing and self-discovery. I can promise you that it will be interesting, exciting, and amazing, but I warn you, it will probably include some messy stuff along the way. The goddess knows how to kick someone's serious butt. You won't find what I call womb work within this lesson. That just isn't my style, and I am not dissing it or anyone that does it. If you are seeking more womb-centric works, then there are a lot of books out there on the subject. I prefer to work with something that is more open to all. Whether you have a womb or not should not, in my opinion, affect how you work with the goddess or indeed magic or witchcraft as a whole. I don't care who you are, or what you identify as. That's your business. Neither, in my opinion, does the goddess. She does not discriminate. Trust is key here. Trust your own intuition. It won't let you down. You have the power within you. Let the goddess guide you. But do make the most of your journey. It will be enlightening. Calling on her. There are many ways to call on the goddess in her particular phases, and as many, if not more, reasons for doing so. It may be that you choose a particular phase of her to help you with a period or issue that is happening in your own life. You may need to step back from working so hard and let out your inner child. Calling upon the maiden aspect would be perfect for that. If you need some support with a family situation or issue at home, then the mother aspect would probably be the best one to ask for guidance. A work situation that requires some tough decisions may benefit from the matriarch energy. Dealing with inner work, past life issues, or something that you need to let go would be best dealt with by working with crone energy. There are crossovers between them all, obviously. Trust your intuition on which one to work with or listen. The goddess will probably make a suggestion for you. You can also work with them for magic. For instance, a spell for a new business would benefit from the fresh new beginnings energy of the maiden. But you could then move on with the spell and call in any of the other phases of goddess to help you with each stage of the business setup and structure. Calling upon more than one will help you with each of their levels of experience. The maiden. The maiden is usually thought of as a virgin too, but we need to remember that the original meaning of the word virgin meant someone who was free and not married, rather than someone who had not had sex before. A youngling, one who is perhaps unaware of their potential, yet but full of ideas, energy, and enthusiasm. We all start here with the maiden energy, the innocence, the excitement of youth, perhaps a little naive, but open to all kinds of possibilities with no preconceptions. This is a phase where we set our foundations for life. How does that relate to our current times, though? You don't usually see fair maidens with flowers in their flowing hair dancing down the high street, at least not where I live. I guess the modern day equivalent would be a group of teenagers walking home from school, carrying their books in fashionable handbags, mobile phones in hand, wearing makeup, and talking about who is seeing what boy and what the latest gossip is. That isn't to say the youth of today is bad. I have teenage children myself, and I am a very proud mother. My own youth was in the 80s, a time of rah-rah skirts, leg warmers, and electronic pop music, and I loved every minute of it. My teenage years played a huge part in shaping the person that I am today. And yes, I still wear leg warmers. To me, the maiden goddess isn't about floaty dresses and running through the fields of corn with wild abandon. It's about remembering that you are young, that you were young once, reminding yourself that you made rash choices based on all sorts of outside influences, but also that you had fun. You had few worries apart from what you were going to wear to the Friday night disco. Looking back, life was totally carefree, although it probably didn't seem so at the time. Ask my parents, I had my fair share of dramas. But although I wouldn't want to go back to being 16, I like being grown up and being able to make my own life decisions. And although I wouldn't mind the figure that I had back then, I learned very valuable life lessons from those years. And it is good to look back and remember how I dealt with certain situations and how good it felt to just dance, laugh, and let some situations just sort themselves out without getting involved in all the drama. Alternative name suggestions: spring, east, air, waxing, sunrise, fields, youth, carefree, youngling, warrior, student, innocent, seed, act one, dark, energetic, child, pioneer, primary, beginnings, fresh, princess, adventurer, huntress. Her attributes and the areas of magic she can help with: anticipation, balance, beauty, carefree, creation, curiosity, dawn, desires, discovery, enchantment, enthusiasm, exploration, hope, huntress, independence, initiation, innocence, inspiration, intelligence, naivety, nature, new beginnings, play, pleasure, potential, purity, self awareness, self confidence, self expression, sexuality, skill, spirituality, spring, trust, understanding, vitality, your inner child, youth. Maiden correspondences, moon phase, new waxing, season, spring, direction, east, element, air. The mother. I guess the period from maiden to mother can vary greatly now. Our ancestors would have had children at quite a young age. Yes, I know that happens now, and it worries me greatly when I see or hear of teenagers having children, as I do feel they haven't had time to grow out of being a child themselves. But everyone has their own journey. I came to motherhood fairly late, really, in my early 30s, and actually, it was the right time for me. I had no desire to be a mother until I hit the milestone of 30, and then panic set in as the biological clock started to tick incessantly loudly. When I think about mother goddesses, I am probably visualising the stereotypical mother figure, slightly plump and wearing an apron with flour on her hands from making bread. Yes, I know that is so outdated. For reference, my mother is a very smart and fashionable, but also a wonderful cook. When I first became a mother, I also worked in an office and believed that to be a mother, I had to be perfect. The perfect wife, perfect mother, perfect homemaker, and also perfect at work. Believe me, it doesn't work. There just aren't enough hours in the day. Trying to do it all is incredibly stressful, and there has to be some compromise. The key for me anyway, in the mother stage is not to beat yourself up. Having a dust free house is not a high priority when you have small children. I suspect, although they didn't have the same outside influences, even our ancestors sometimes found motherhood stressful, worrying about the cold or the damp and whether there was enough food to feed all the hungry mouths. Sadly, that still happens in parts of the world today. I also don't think to connect with the mother stage of life that you need to have your own children. This part of your journey is perhaps just about being comfortable, feeling secure, and knowing that you are working towards being happy with yourself and who you are. You may not have children, but you may have those that are dependent on you: dogs, cats, partners, friends, or relatives. You could also see it as a nurturing your inner child. The mother gives birth to the abundance on earth. She represents the fullness of life. Alternative name suggestions: summer, south, fire, full, midday, forests, experience, productive, provider, creator, nurturer, teacher, learner, learned, seedling, act two, shadow, fruitful, parent, source, origin, progenitor, procreator, duchess, caregiver. Her attributes and areas of magic she can help you with: abundance, balance, caring, confidence, discipline, fertility, fruition, fulfillment, giving, growth, guidance, happiness, harmony, healing, help, ideas, love, marriage, nourishment, nurturer, patience, power, procreation, protection, provider, receiving, regeneration, relationships, responsibility, self care, self discipline, self understanding, spirituality, summer, sustainability. Mother correspondences: moon phase full, season summer, direction south, element fire. The matriarch. I have put the matriarch stage in because I do feel that from mother to crone is such a big leap. If you are a mother, you will always be a mother, even when you are of crone age. And even then, what age do you class as crone? If you have a child at 20, you could say you move out of mother stage at 40, perhaps, which seems way too young to be a crone. This is where I see the matriarch stage fit in. The official meaning of matriarch is a leader of a clan or group, one that is a respected elder. I'm not sure if there are any dedicated lists of matriarch goddess anywhere, perhaps not, but the main one that springs to mind is Gaia, Mother Earth. Yes, but perhaps maybe just a bit more experienced than a mother. I think of this as the autumn stage in your life. When you have achieved goals that you set in your early day years, maybe you have a job that you have worked hard for, a nice house, nice car, and all the material things, if that is how you measure success. But also, from a spiritual point of view, I also think it is when a woman is maybe at her strongest point. She isn't young, but isn't old. She is mature and knowledgeable, good long-standing friends, confident in herself, and able to deal with situations as they arise with wisdom and dignity. Well, hopefully anyway. This is perhaps also the period in a woman's life that she has a bit of spare cash and some time to herself to follow her dreams and wishes, to take up hobbies and maybe travel to places she has always wanted to see and discover more about herself in the process. On the downside, this stage of life sees the menopause, but even then, perhaps it should be something that is celebrated as a rite of passage. Alternative name suggestions: autumn, west, water, waning, sunset, ocean, maturity, independent, organizer, protector, wise one, teacher, sapling, queen, act 3, mists, productive, achiever, dignity, grand dame. Her attributes and areas of magic she can help you with: achievements, authority, autumn, confidence, control, dignity, dreams, experience, goals, knowledge, maturity, organization, power, self fulfillment, spirituality, success, travel, wisdom. Matriarch correspondences: moon phase, waning, season, autumn, direction, west, element, water. The crone. And then onto the crone phase. She is the wise woman and the sage. Our ancestors would have revered the crone for her wisdom, knowledge, and possibly the actual act that she'd survived to old age. Sadly, I think the pensioners of our modern age don't always get revered or even respected, which is a real shame because they have so much knowledge and insight to share. Although as time moves on, the pensioners now, the people in their 60s and 70s, are possibly more likely to be riding Harleys and taking holidays in the south of France rather than retiring to the seaside to sit in a deck chair and eat fish and chips. The word crone comes from the Greek word chronos, which means time. Interestingly, the name for the Hindu goddess Kali derives from the Sanskrit Kale, which also means time. The crone is the winter phase of life: wisdom, knowledge, experience, guidance, and transformation in the guise of destruction and death, which brings the cycle around again to new life and new beginnings. My vision, and possibly the archetypal one, is that of an old woman with white hair and hunched figure and wrinkled face. Our pensioner generation today, those in their 80s and 90s, may fit that image, but those just starting under the pensioner bracket, 60, 65, may still be fighting the battle of hiding the grey hair under hair dye. I started that battle a long time ago. Be dressed fashionably and still be rocking the live life to the fullest idea. But it is the phase of your life journey that maybe gives you the most time to yourself. Retirement offers days free to follow pursuits or just to potter about in the garden, reading, relaxing, and perhaps spending time with your grandchildren. Not so relaxing if you have grandparents, though, because our generation relies a huge amount on grandparents looking after the grandchildren so that the parents can still go to work. There are many crone goddesses, such as the Kaliak, my own personal matron goddess, Kali, and Macha. A lot of the crone goddesses are also linked with death and destruction, and to me that makes sense. There must come an age in your life where you think, I must have less years left in my lifetime than those I've already lived. And that can be pretty scary. I believe that part of the crone phase in your life is to accept that life is a circle, a never-ending one of birth, life, death, and rebirth. Thinking about death is not pleasant, but it is a reality and one that should hopefully make us think about how we are as a person, what kind of life we live, and how we have treated others. The crone stage is also one of introspection, and maybe even one of making amends. Do you get to the crone stage and think about all the decisions you have made, all the people you have helped or not helped, those that you have hurt or cared for? It is an interesting exercise to do when you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, but I would imagine extremely eye opening to look back over, say, 80 years and review every part of your journey, good or bad. The question is, when you get to the crone stage, what will you think and feel when you look back over your lifetime? Alternative name suggestions: winter, north, earth, dark, midnight, caves, wisdom, wise, elder, wise one, protector, knowledge, mature. Act 4: light, independent, grandmother, beldam, oldster, golden ager, senior, veteran, cunning woman, sovereign. The crone attributes: balance, comfort, culmination, death, destruction, divination, end of cycles, endings, experience, fulfillment, guidance, harvest, justice, knowledge, meditation, mysteries, past lives, prophecy, protection, rebirth, relaxation, retribution, spirit world connection, support, transformation, truth, understanding, visions, winter, wisdom. Crone correspondences: moon phase, dark, season, winter, direction, north, element, earth. Homework. 1. Write a meditation that directs you to meet each of the facets of the triple goddess. Work with meditation and write about your results. Include the text for your meditation in your homework. 2. Do some research and find 3 examples of each of the facets of the goddess: maiden, mother, matriarch, crone. Write a line or 2 about each one you have found and why you put them in that category. 3. Pick one of the facets of the triple goddess and write a ritual to work with them. Include a circle casting, quarter calls, and spell work relating to that phase of the goddess. 4. Which herbs or plants and crystals would you associate with each phase of the triple goddess? Suggest at least 3 of each for each phase: 3 herbs, plants, 3 crystals for the maiden, 3 herbs, plants, 3 crystals for the mother, etc. Homework for each lesson should be emailed to your mentor Ness or Heather at the usual address. There are links for further study below.